Three, two, one, action.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling in Film podcast, hosted by yours truly, as always. Now, I can't say this is a numbered episode, but it's a bit of a bonus episode because a couple of days ago I realized it's the 20-year anniversary of Adam Sandler's The Longest Yard. Now, you're probably wondering, some of you are probably wondering, why the hell are you talking about this random old Adam Sandler comedy in what is a long list of random Adam Sandler comedy films, some a lot worse than others? Now, this film, directed by Pete Segal, who is a very well and what's the word I'm looking for? A very accomplished comedic director. And he's done some really good films. This one, 2005, Longest Yard, was a remake of a film of the same name from, I believe, the 70s. And it was obviously stars Adam Sandler as Paul Crewe, a former football player, a disgraced football player who ends up in prison and is charged with creating a football team of inmates who end up having to face the security guards or the prison guards. And it's a good concept, it's a fun concept, and it obviously once upon a time it worked, and now it's being done again with Adam Sandler. It has Chris Rock and really, really good cast of actors. But more importantly, it has a big group of, especially at the time, and even today, household professional wrestling names, which was really cool for young me. I'm like, damn, look at all these people, look at all these wrestlers in that. That's super cool. In like a legitimate big film. Because Adam Sandler at the time, 2005, was probably like the height of his like stardom and like celebrity. Had a nice run during those years, and was a legitimate star. So seeing, and the names, I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kevin Nash, Bob Sapp, who at the time had just come off like a run in Japan and massive star, Goldberg, and had not yet debuted in WWE, but was on the verge of debuting, the Great Khali. Those guys, all in it. Obviously, for me, I was in as a young kid. But at the time, what was even more special about it, because 2005 was not a good time for wrestling and wrestlers in Hollywood, in cinema. Their portrayal, whenever films brought them in, or it was about wrestling, it was not good. And wrestlers were not showcased in the best of light, and they were not given the respect for being the performers they were. And The Rock was like the one exception during that time, and even he was finding his footing and not quite the level he became. So to see that at the time, just them being in the film, was like, okay, this is super cool. But what ended up happening was, it was at that time, by that point, and especially around those years, the best showcase and the most respect that was given to professional wrestlers in a mainstream Hollywood film for a long time. Because the film does what Paul Heyman famously did in ECW and has done for many years. It accentuates the strengths of the wrestlers, of Goldberg, of Austin, of Kevin Nash, of Bob Sapp, of Great Khali. It gives them enough sound bites, it gives them enough moments to shine, and it plays to their individual strengths. and then they are supported by the seasoned actors, and it flows, it works, and it was so much fun. The film itself is a lot of fun. It's by no means a groundbreaking film, but it's a lot of fun. It's really funny. There's a lot of good moments, and a lot of those good moments and the kind of iconic moments, and maybe I'm biased, were from the wrestlers. Like Kevin Nash, this is legitimately one of the best performances, A, of Kevin Nash, and B, I think, underrated performance of a wrestler in a film. Because Kevin, I think if Kevin, on his podcast, he said this, he didn't have as many lines, but he was given the room to improv. And he ended up having a lot more lines. And Kevin's character went from this big, tough, hulky figure, as Kevin is, but then it showed Kevin's actual comedic, fun personality, which he ended up showing in wrestling a lot. It got showcased in The Longest Yard, because there's a whole joke where I think he was taking steroids and then they switch his tablets for estrogen, and then he becomes very emotional and very feminine, if you will, and amongst these macho, hulky men, including Steve Austin, and yeah, he riffs and he says these crazy one-liners, and he's so ridiculous, but it's so funny, and he's like a little show stealer. Specifically at the end, towards the end of the film, in these key moments, Kevin has these little lines, and they're just absolutely brilliant. And that's Kevin being the silly kind of performer and guy he is, but the film allowing him to do that in a controlled space that allows him to shine while still operating and making while still fitting the story, and everybody else is kind of supporting and guiding the story along. And on the other side, Steve Austin plays this intense, almost like ruthless security guard, racist, but nevertheless, that side notwithstanding, the actual portrayal, that kind of rough, tough police officer or prison guard, perfect. Goldberg's like the monster powerhouse footballer, perfect. Great Khali is like the monster who is like the extra kind of ace of Adam Sandler's team, and that has this aura. He's locked away from all the other prison guards, and Adam Sandler has to kind of convince him and tentatively go to him and please, Carly, oh, it's not Carly, but join my team. And again, it's a perfect presentation of Great Khali. I would argue the best presentation of Great Khali there's ever been, including him in WWE. There's a real aura and real like grandiose feel of his character. And again, it's enough in doses without overstaying its welcome. Bob Sapp is hilarious, absolutely hilarious, and just so full of energy and charisma, and he plays that kind of big imbecile really, really well, who's silly and doesn't know a lot. And yeah, like I said, but none of this is disrespectful. They are hamming up in the right ways, and they're given the tools and the platform to be who they are and to be the entertainers they are. And it flows in the story, and they have a lot of shining moments. And it was so special at that time, and I didn't realize, maybe at the moment I didn't realize how special it was, how significant it was, because it didn't happen. This didn't happen. If wrestlers were given roles in that time, it was 20 seconds and then they were killed, however many seconds later. Look at Batista and Smallville, and what they were given, they were never given enough room to do anything, really, because they weren't given the respect for the performers they were. Longest Yard, in a time where it was just not happening, broke the mold. And historically, I think looking back, it deserves a lot of praise for what it did for those wrestlers in particular, giving them, I think, a special experience in films. I think Kevin speaks of it quite highly. I'm assuming Steve Austin and Goldberg, and probably they all did enjoy that experience. And as a fan, like if you watch that back, you watch kind of with a sense of like, you feel quite proud as a wrestling fan and be like, yeah, look, those are our guys. Those are our guys, and you know they're killing it, and they're doing great with Adam Sandler and Chris Rock and all these other seasoned actors. And yeah, like I feel like it was a film that deserved a shout out. It deserved a shout out. Kevin Nash deserves a shout out for the wonderful performance he gave in that film. Yeah, and like I said, I think historically, if you look at it, like I said, during that time, it was the dark days of wrestlers and wrestling in cinema, and that was this rare shining light for professional wrestling. And of course, now we're in such a great time with this merging of professional wrestling, professional wrestlers in cinema and films, Hollywood, etc. That it feels foreign to kind of talk about that now, which is lovely, and this is the place we always wanted to be as wrestling fans. But yeah, I feel like that shouldn't be forgotten. Like the Princess Brides of the world, and The Day Lives, etc. I mean, like, I'm not saying The Longest Yard is on the level of those films. However, in its own way, it deserves its place for its portrayal of wrestlers in this really fun film. And I rewatched it, just very, very recently. It's worth another watch. It's a lot of fun. It's a breezy hour, 50 minutes. And yeah, like I said, as a wrestling fan, you feel this sense of joy watching Steve and Kevin and Goldberg, and it's not cringe. It's just a good time. And yeah, I think it's just, as a fan, I almost like thank Adam Sandler and the team involved for doing it, because they said wrestlers weren't given that shot that time, and they gave something, and they threw the bone, and yeah, it was special. It was special as a fan, and I think it's special to revisit and look back on, and maybe, yeah, just go back and give it a watch and have a little nostalgic moment if you watched it at the time, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So that was my rambling about The Longest Yard. Apologies for my rambling, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had that kind of thought in your head, if you didn't, about The Longest Yard, because, like I said, it deserves its praises. It deserves its flowers. Now you finished watching my rambling, please like, subscribe, share, help us grow. Thank you for watching again. Stay tuned for the next one.